and to introduce you to the new Schoology Assessments tool, and we'll do it in a frequently asked questions format. So what are Schoology Assessments? Well, it's a tool in Schoology that you can add to ask formative assessment questions, and students can get instant feedback. Now, you might say, well, we already have a tool like that called Test Quiz. Well, you're right, we do. Actually, the assessment tool is going to replace the Test Quiz tool eventually. So it has a lot of the same functionality, and it will have even more functionality when it is complete. What does the assessment tool give you? Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing is it gives you new types of questions that you can add to your assessment. So along with the existing question types like multiple choice, true, false, and essay, you also have 7 new enhanced question types. Some are math specific, math short answer, number line, and chart, although I'd say that some of these could be used for other subject areas, like the number line could be used for a timeline. And then you'll have the highlight hotspot, which is one of my favorite types of questions as a former world language teacher, where a student can look at a picture and click on a spot on a picture to indicate whatever is being discussed, whether it be something that's being spoken, a vocabulary word, to whatever the sentence is saying. It's actually a really cool tool. You also have the highlight image, highlight text, and the label image question type. So these are going to be great additions to the questions that we already have from the Test Quiz tool. You also have a more granular scoring capability, and we have that to an extent in the Schoology Test Quiz tool, but now this is taken to another level. And something that was often asked for, which were accessibility features, these have been added where the student can change the color scheme, the font size, or even zoom in or zoom out according to their needs. And then there's also an array of new tools that students can use. So the teacher can make a calculator available during the assessment, or a protractor, or a ruler, and some other tools as well. So you might ask, well, if the Test Quiz tool is going away, can I still use that? And the answer is yes. You can continue to use this tool because both of them, the Test Quiz and assessment, will both be available for some time. However, you will be encouraged to migrate over to the assessment tool as time goes by and as the assessment tool becomes more and more mature. Some of the things that you've come to rely on in Test Quiz may not be available yet in the assessment tool. So we'll talk about them later in this short video, but you might need to rely upon this other tool for a little while longer, depending on how you use it. So what will happen with those tests and quizzes you've already created? I think that might have been one of your questions, maybe after I talked about it going away. Well, a lot of time goes into creating these questions. And so Schoology has recognized that, and they have committed to creating a conversion tool so that you can convert those questions you've already made to the new format. Eventually, the Test Quiz tool will go away, but you'll be given some time to convert your questions prior to that. Once it's done, or once it's gone, though, those questions won't be able to be used as far as we've been told. When will that be? Well, Schoology hasn't really narrowed it down, but they've said that they need the new assessment tool to be have as many features as the Test Quiz tool. So it's still being developed. So one answer that Schoology has given us is sometime in 2019 perhaps, but they're not sure. So you have a little while with Test Quiz, but eventually you will be moving over to the new assessment tool. Another question I get when I talk about this with some teachers is, when will the conversion tool be available? When can I convert my questions over to the assessment tool file type? And Schoology has told us sometime in 2018 they will be coming out with the conversion tool. So what can you do in the meantime? Well, Schoology has advised me when I've asked them that that new conversion tool will convert the questions. So you can save your questions from your quizzes into question bank. And then when the tool comes out, you'll be able to convert them pretty easily. So in your resources area in Schoology, you'd create a question bank and then go to the quiz, like here on the Hamlet quiz, click on the questions tab, options, and then select add questions to bank, and then you can send them there and then wait for that conversion tool to come out. So here's some details about assessments that you might be interested in. I already talked about that there are more question types on assessments. There are accessibility features and more optional tools. They'll be able to flag questions for review or eliminate choices. You now have the ability to copy questions when you're creating the assessment. You're now limited to 20 attempts per assessment, whereas in the test quiz tool, it's an unlimited. You could set it to unlimited or set it to 1, 2, 3, 4. It was your call. Now they have 20 attempts as the maximum. All assessments are resumable. So if the internet goes down and it was set that it wasn't resumable and they had one attempt, and if the internet would go out, teachers would have to go in and reset that quiz for that student. Right now, these are things that you'd probably be interested in. The assessment tool does not have the capability of recording audio or video yet. So if that's something you use a lot, whether you do that or you have your students do that, it's not yet there. There is no ability to import questions or save questions to a question bank from an assessment yet in our version of Schoology. And there are no printing options, so if you have an absent student or a student who has an IEP who needs their test printed, that is not yet available. The language keyboards are not available for things like Spanish or French. And the insert menu, when you're creating the question, if you're accustomed to being able to pull from Google Drive and things like that, it's really a limited menu at this time, really meant for adding things like pictures. And that's it so far. So I've been told it will be developed, but right now that's the state of the tool. Last question I get asked is, can we use the lockdown browser with an assessment? And in my limited testing, it has worked. Can you sync scores from assessments from the gradebook in Schoology to eSchool Plus with that sync? Yes, I have seen it work, and I encourage you to try that out. So where can you learn more about the assessment tool? Well, Schoology has their own guide. And I have the bit.ly link that you can get to pretty easily. It's pretty comprehensive. They also have an accompanying YouTube playlist that takes you through the creation of an assessment and the different question types. Here's a webinar that's about an hour long, but it talks about the whole timeline of quiz tool and assessments and gives you some examples of question types. And then lastly, in our Schoology tutorials library group, where we have a lot of tutorial resources, if you go to the resources area and then to the assessment folder, you're going to see materials there. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks.